Fears of a wider war are growing as Iran threatens Israel with a broad counterstrike for the killing of Ismail Haniyeh. Tehran blames Israel for assassinating the Hamas leader on its soil. The U.S. announced it's sending additional fighter jets to the region along with an aircraft carrier to help defend Israel. Crowds are lining up at Beirut's international airport as the U.S., the U.K. and other governments urge their citizens to leave Lebanon as soon as possible. The U.S. Embassy in Lebanon is telling its citizens to leave on, quote, any ticket available after several airlines suspended and canceled flights to Beirut. British nationals have been told to, quote, leave now by the U.K. government. Joining me now is DW correspondent Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem. Tanya, Iran has promised to strike Israel. The U.S. and U.K. governments are telling their citizens to leave Lebanon as soon as possible. What's the mood like in Israel?
Well, I think it depends who you ask. I mean, generally, some people I talked to here over the past week, they said what it had to be done, you know, those strikes in Beirut, but also in Tehran, for which Israel has not taken responsibility. But they see this as necessary for Israel's deterrence. Others have said, you know, what does that mean then for the hostages that are still being held in Gaza and for the talks to bring them home? But generally speaking here, the mood is a bit, that's a waiting period. Everybody is now talking about what will be the scope of this retaliation, the anticipated retaliation by Hezbollah and by Iran, and when will it happen? Iran and Hezbollah have indicated that it will be a multi-layered attack involving also the other Iran's proxies, like the Shiite militias in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah, of course, and Iran itself. That reminds a bit people here of the attacks in April when Iran launched drones and missiles. They were at the time intercepted mostly by the air defense. But still, you know, there's at the moment the home front guidelines have not been changed. Daily life continues. The most visible sign maybe is that also here foreign airlines have announced that they're suspending flights in the coming days. So it is a waiting period right now. What is there to happen? What will be the scope? And also then, of course, the question, how will Israel then respond to that, and whether that is the start of a more intensifying conflict here.
Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem, thank you so much. And at least 9 people, including a local commander of Hamas's military wing, have been killed in 2 separate Israeli airstrikes in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli army says it targeted militants in both attacks.
Israel carried out its first airstrike on a vehicle near the city of Tulkarm in the occupied West Bank. It says the car was carrying a terrorist squad on its way to carry out an attack. Hamas confirmed one of its commanders was among those killed. Its ally, Islamic Jihad, claimed the other 4 men killed as its fighters.
I live nearby. My house is here. I was heading to work when I heard the explosion. I went with my employee to check the site. We saw a young man killed near the car on the road, and there were martyrs inside the vehicle. Then the army fired another missile, so we ran away. The car was on fire and we ran.
A short while later, Israel killed 4 more Palestinians in another strike nearby. The army says they were militants who opened fire on Israeli troops operating in the area.
We received information there were martyrs near the car, and after an hour and a half of not being allowed in there, the army withdrew, and we came in there and found their remains.
Journalists on the ground were also caught up in the raids in Tulkarm. Israeli troops fired tear gas at them as they tried to cover the confrontations. According to the local health ministry, around 600 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli fire in the West Bank since the start of the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza.